Hey everyone, this is Bill Krieger from the Veterans Archives podcast, where we preserve and share the incredible stories of our nation's heroes. Catch us every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern on Wreaths Across America Radio, or stream anytime on Buzzsprout, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Really, anywhere you choose to get your podcast, you should be able to find us. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on social media to help us reach more veterans and supporters. We are a nonprofit, and this service is completely free for veterans. Every story matters, and every voice deserves to be heard. Spread the word, honor our heroes, and join us on this mission. Follow, share, and tune in, because their story should never be forgotten. Learn more at veteransarchives.org. We'll see you there. Today is Wednesday, March 19th, 2025. We're talking with John Bureman, who served in the United States Air Force. So good morning, John.
Good morning.
It's great to see you this morning.
Great to be here.
Yeah, so like we were talking earlier, I saw your request come through, and I thought I've already talked to John Bureman, but you're John Bureman Sr. then.
Well, no, not a senior.
Oh.
I'm John, and my son John is Jon, and then our middle names are different.
Oh, okay. And it's funny you say that, because when we posted his story, I had misspelled his name, and he said, "Hey, everything looks great, but could you put Jon, because it's not John." Now I understand why.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get started then. I'm going to ask a easy question, and then we'll just go from there. So when and where were you born, John?
I was born in Manchester County, South Ruislip, England, August the 19th, 1953. That's the day I was born, and that's the day I joined the military.
Okay. So you come from a military family, I'm assuming.
A long line of military family, longer than I had thought. I've got documentation on my dad's side of the family where my great-grandfather was in France in World War I. My dad, active duty Air Force, 23 years, myself, my son, my brother. So yeah, we're an Air Force military family.
Well,
all the way.
That's pretty incredible. Now, were you in England long enough to remember being there, or did you come back to the States?
No. Yeah, I was actually, I lived in England. Then we came back to the States for a short period of time, then went to Germany. My dad went back to Germany. I understand, I was told I spoke German before I spoke English. So we were there for quite a bit of time. But I have no real solid memories of that time of my life. Got some little bits and pieces that, I remember, but nothing real solid with that.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about your dad. What are some of your memories of your dad when you think about him? What pops into your mind?
A very hardworking man. I don't ever recall not wanting something and not being able to have that. I mean, within reason.
Right.
We were solid middle class, I think. I wrote a book, actually. I know this sounds kind of weird, but yeah, I've got it right here. This is actually volume 1.
Okay.
And it's my life story. But in researching this book, I learned so much about my dad and my mom that I had no idea about. And it kind of made me feel bad in that, why didn't I ask these things when I could have talked to them? They're both gone.
Right.
And I really regret that. And so my older brother, again, Air Force, retired, recently deceased. I'm the last of us, I like to say. Helped me a lot in filling in some blanks. He had a lot of documentation he was able to send me. But to answer your question, my memories of my dad, again, very hardworking man. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a lot of affection that I remember, but he was certainly a loving man, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like he was there for the family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What about your mom? Same question. When you think about your mom, what comes to mind?
My mom was a war bride. My dad was stationed in Germany shortly after the war, and met my mom there. She was, I guess, doing bus tours. She spoke English.
Uh-huh.
I think she was 16 years old, and they ended up getting married. And my memories of my mom are when there was a thunderstorm, she would go to the closet. I didn't know about PTSD,
Yeah.
but that's what she had. She was there when they were firebombing the towns, and spent a lot of time in cellars. And when those thunderstorms in Texas would roll through, she had to go hide. And I'm so ashamed, but I made fun of her for that. I didn't know.
No,
You know,
you were a kid.
I was a kid,
Yeah.
but yeah. Well, what I didn't know about my mom and what I found out with this book was that my mom was extremely intelligent. She was well traveled. Um, her dad was a trained chef and worked in New York City for many, many years at hotels. When the war started, he, of course, was drafted. He cooked. He ended up serving time in a Soviet prison camp after the war. But these are things I didn't know about my mom.
Right. Probably formed who she was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
She was very high class. I don't know how else to say it.
Right.
But I didn't know that part of her.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about growing up then. What are some of your memories of growing up?
My the real memories start in Kansas. My dad was stationed at Forbes Air Force Base, and small town doesn't even come close to describing it, but that's Burlingame, Kansas is where I lived for 7 years, and it was such a culture shock when my dad got assigned to embassy duty in Lima, Peru. So we moved from small town Burlingame, Kansas to Arlington, Virginia, where my dad went to this intensive language school to learn Spanish. And I got dropped in the middle of a war zone. Seriously, sirens every night. The school I went to, from this small town school to this huge, there were gang fights going on in the hallways. And I was scared to death of that place.
Yeah, I can only imagine. That's terrifying. And so how long were you in Peru?
In Peru for 3 years.
Okay.
From, let's see, 68, 69, 70, summer of love. I'm 16 years old in a country where you could go into any store and buy whatever you wanted, alcohol, cigarettes, didn't matter. Yeah, it was an amazing place to come of age, no doubt about it.
Sounds like a place where you grow up pretty fast.
You do. My parents were party. They love to party, and this was a tight group of people. This embassy crew, and they were all connected. They partied all the time and pretty much left us to our own devices. which led to my brother being involved in a kidnapping at the Peruvian International Airport and almost going to prison in Peru for God knows how long.
Oh my gosh. So he wasn't being kidnapped. He was part of the kidnapping.
Yeah, it was a stunt that him and a bunch of surfing buddies decided they wanted to do, and they pulled it off.
Sounds like the Peruvians didn't think it was very funny.
They didn't. As a matter of fact, the CIA got involved. The Kremlin got involved. It was really close to an international incident.
I've been doing this for 3 years. I don't think I've ever talked to anyone who had family members that were almost involved in an international incident. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, hang on just a sec, real quick. I've got this is a clipping from the Stars and Stripes newspaper there in Peru, Dateline Lima. The American embassy has admitted that 4 Americans attached to the U.S. diplomatic mission here were responsible for a prank that led to press denunciation of an alleged CIA kidnapping of a Brazilian diplomat. My brother was the alleged Brazilian diplomat. The embassy, in a formal statement, said the prank was perpetrated by a member of the embassy's security guard and 3 minor children of embassy personnel. One of the actors was a Marine embassy guard, and I'm pretty sure he got court-martialed. My brother was able to get out of the country under the cover of darkness, I guess you could say, and so that all worked out okay.
Did you all end up coming back to the States shortly after that then?
Yeah, but not because of that.
Right.
There was a takeover of the government, which happened all the time. But this one, we were close to I guess my dad was close to ending his tour anyway. That prank that my brother pulled did keep my dad from making senior master sergeant, unfortunately. So
yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah, he taught me very early on that my actions reflect directly on him as long as we're in the military. And that proved to be true.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably not much different from being a preacher's kid or a policeman's kid. I mean, kind of all eyes are on you. So when you left Peru, where'd you guys go from there?
Went from there to Austin, Texas. And that's where I finished high school and joined the Air Force. Wasn't my first choice. Air Force was not my first choice. The Navy was my first choice.
Well, that's pretty interesting. So I'm assuming, like, you moved around a lot. You probably didn't have the same group of friends every place you went. So was it like being the new guy every time?
It was. But I mean, 7 years in Kansas, and then from there to a short stay in Virginia, and a little bit longer stay in Peru. Yeah, so it was. I was not one to make friends, because why bother, kind of thing. So I learned to entertain myself. That's pretty much. I was my best friend for a long time.
Oh, I can understand that. So you come back, you graduate high school, and you wanted to join the Navy. What? Tell me this story.
So it's again 1970, 71-ish, and I had long hair. I had kind of some semi-facial hair, and the Navy at that time, they were wearing bell bottoms. I wore bell bottoms. You could have facial hair. I wanted facial hair, and their hair regulations weren't, real tight. So heck, I'll do that for a couple years.
It sounds like a perfect fit.
I thought so.
Yeah.
So again, back to my brother. Now, my brother had already joined the military. He joined the Air Force, and he had told me that one of the forms that he had to fill out, he had admitted to smoking marijuana. And the drill instructor, after my brother was in basic training, called him into his office and was screaming at him about smoking marijuana. And what it turned out, though, was the DI was impressed that my brother told the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So he made him a squad leader. And I thought, wow, that's great. That's going to be my thing. Tell the truth. So I go to the Navy recruiter, walk in, and a small little office, maybe 4 guys in there. And I said, yeah, I'm interested in joining the Navy. And the guy's, great, have a seat. I said, all right, got some questions for you. He said, can you swim? Break the ice. Yeah, I can swim. So we go through this litany of questions. And then he kind of stops and he goes, leans forward. He goes, you ever use drugs? And remembering my brothers, I said, yeah, I've used drugs. And suddenly the phone stopped ringing. People stopped typing. It got deadly quiet. The other folks get up. They leave the room. And this guy looks at me and goes, why did you say yes? I said, because you asked me. And he goes, we can't take you. We have no waivers. He said, try the Air Force. They have waivers. So that's what I did.
You know, what's interesting to me is it's so different. Well, I was in the military in the 80s, and it's so different because the Air Force is the hardest branch to get into now.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't sound like it was that way maybe back in the 70s, but I guess it was a different time. So
it was.
So you go. Oh, go ahead.
So I go home and I tell my dad this, and he's furious. He goes, what do you mean? I said, calm down, I'll go check the Air Force people out. So I go see the Air Force recruiter, kind of the same questions. And he goes, okay, have you ever used drugs? And I said, yes, I have. And he goes, okay, not a problem. He goes, let's talk through this. He goes, you haven't used any drugs except marijuana. Is that correct? Well, by this time, I realized maybe total honesty isn't the best policy. And I said, that's right. I've never used any other drugs except marijuana. And he goes, okay, it's good. He says, now, how much marijuana have you used? And again, I think I better put the brakes on this one because really I was every day, all day. And so I said, okay, yeah, I smoke about a joint a month. And he goes, okay, so last year you smoked 1 joint in 1 month. Yes, because you're in.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm like, thank goodness for that.
Well, the military had this funny thing. I remember when I was a recruiter, like if you smoked marijuana once or twice, that was considered like experimental. But if you smoked it like 4 times or 5 times, they considered you like a drug user. It was really weird.
Right. It was. There was no real standard to it at all. It was all hit and miss. When I went through the enlistment process, I went to basic training in Lackland. Obviously, I was in Texas. Stayed at the Blue Bonnet Hotel, which is no longer, I guess, a hotel there. But as I got there a little late, so I had a room to myself, which really was great. I didn't have to share anything. But as I was kind of going through my stuff, I opened my wallet and I find this joint that I don't know how long it had been in there. It was flat as could be, but it still contained material. So being the smart boy that I am, I smoked it up that night. Next morning, I go to Lackland to enlist, and they hand me a UA cup, and they say, go pee.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I thought this is going to be a very short-lived career, but never heard another thing. So I guess, made it in.
Just didn't have time to hit your system. Lucky you.
Something. I don't know. Lucky me is right.
Yeah.
That's very true.
So tell me about boot camp. Like, what was it like when you arrived? I mean, you're a military kid. Your brother was in, your dad was in. Were there any big surprises when you got there? Like something that you didn't expect?
Not really. When my brother went through, they were still being really rough on recruits. they, doing stuff that today you wouldn't even think of doing. And so even when I was, went through, it was still a little rough. They would throw things at you, intentionally missing you, but still throwing stuff. I had a boat thrown at me once. But yeah, that kind of surprised me. I did get set back 2 weeks because I didn't listen.
Uh-huh.
But that was a good thing. The original TI that I had, he hated us because we were keeping him from going to Vietnam and killing goops. And yeah, I believed him when he said that. So yeah, it wasn't really a good place, a good fit for me. This place I got set back to, I think I learned a lot from this guy, from this TR.
Well, it's good. Like everything happens for a reason, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So how long was basic for the Air Force back then? You remember? Was it
8 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
Well, for me, 8 weeks plus 2.
Right.
So
you were
10 weeks.
You were on the extended program.
That's right. Yeah.
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 So where did you go from there?
Went right back to Bergstrom. That's where my dad retired from, was Bergstrom, and that's where I went back to. 7 years.
I'm curious. When I went to basic training, there were some guys whose fathers had been. I was in the Navy to begin with. Their dads had been in the Navy, and it's like everywhere they went, people knew their fathers, and so they actually had a hard time in basic training because they got extra attention. Did you run into that at all with people who knew your dad?
No, there was no legacy treatment for me. Yeah, no, there was none of that.
Consider yourself lucky.
Yeah.
So what was your job in the Air Force? And
I had no clue what my job was going to be. I went in, had no guaranteed job, and ended up being a 98130, which is a dental technician.
Really?
Don't ask me. I have no idea. Yeah, and there was no tech school. We went through a program called Medical Fundamentals, or Med Funnies, we called it. And that was basically training us to be second echelon medics in case of a battle. And yeah, nothing to do with dental at all. It was all on the job training.
So you didn't clean any teeth or any of that stuff?
Oh, I did it all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, once I got there, you start out doing chair sides, assisting the dentist, and learning as you go. Yeah, it was quite the ride.
Yeah, that sounds kind of cool and scary all at the same time.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it.
And then, so when you finished up your school, where to from there?
Well, so again, 7 years at Bergstrom. And in that time, I learned all about chairside dental assisting and taking x-rays, cleanings, administration, the whole thing. Mm-hmm. After that, went to Okinawa, Japan for 3 years. And again, that was a great assignment. Loved it. Really good place.
Yeah. That's in. So you were married at some point in all of this, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, I got married there.
Okay.
Yeah. So met my high school sweetheart, Sandy, and her dad was also military, and so I met her there in Austin or at Bergstrom. He ended up getting assigned to Florida. Trying to Fort Walton Beach, MacDill, maybe Air Force Base, Florida. So there was a period of separation. They ended up coming back, and we ended up getting married. We were married just a few months before I joined the Air Force. So,
okay.
That was the only period of time in my life, the period of time from when I graduated high school, which was, I think, May of 72, and to when I joined the military, which was August. That was the only time in my life I did not have an ID card. The only time my entire life.
That's funny. And if you like when you're in it, when you always have an ID card and all that stuff, it doesn't seem like anything, but I think there's those gaps where you're like, oh, wait a minute, something's missing here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's kind of weird. So that period of time where I had no ID card, they were opening, the IRS was opening a branch in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
It was going to be their southern regional branch. And they were computerizing this place for the first time ever. IRS was going to start using computers. And they put out, ads in newspapers and stuff. And the cool thing was they didn't want anybody with any computer experience. If you had computer experience, they didn't want to talk to you. You had to have zero experience. Well, here I am. I actually got hired.
Oh,
I was hired. Today I kind of imagine, where would I be today? I would have been on the ground floor of computerizing this place in Austin, which was cutting edge,
right.
But yeah, so I got hired. I went back to the place I worked as called the Run-In Chef, which was like a little grill,
Mm-hmm.
and told my boss. And I was set. And then a week later, I get a call from the HR department. They said, "Mr. Bureman, we're so sorry. We had a veteran apply also, and we didn't realize that he was a veteran. And now that we know he is a veteran, we have to give him preference. So you're not hired after all."
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah, like you said, things happen for a reason.
That's true. That's true. And if the government holds true, you'd still be working on the same computer systems today.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
looking around for Elon to come tap me on the shoulder and say, "You're out of here."
Something like that, right?
Yeah.
Right? So then you're like, well, I'm joining the military then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly why I did it. And it's been amazing.
Oh,
My son and my daughter were both born in Austin.
mm-hmm.
They were with us when we went to Okinawa and spent 3 years there. So yeah, it was Bergstrom was a great assignment. I loved it. Now it's an international airport, but I really enjoyed that.
It's funny how that stuff happens. I went to basic training in the Navy in San Diego. Now that's a subdivision. There's a subdivision there.
Not sub underwater sub.
No,
yeah.
It was. I took my daughter there one time, and I was like, "Oh, this is where I went to." Oh, wait a minute, it's not even here anymore.
Yeah.
So you go to Japan. How was Japan? How was Okinawa?
It was. I mean, culture shock. Obviously, that was our first, trip overseas.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a fun assignment. Very small island. I started learning and appreciating a lot of World War II history.
Yeah.
When I got there, I've always been kind of a history buff anyway, but to appreciate what happened on that island, with the U.S. taking control is just mind-boggling. There's areas of that island you still can't go to because of all the unexploded ordnance. There's no tall trees on the island. They were all leveled. It's kind of an interesting thing to realize that there's no tall trees here. And they're always digging up bombs. They're, doing construction, and suddenly there's an unexploded 500-pound bomb. You got to clear everything out. But yeah, it was a good assignment. I enjoyed it.
Oh, that's great. And then you, where'd you go after that?
From there, we went to Loring Air Force Base, Maine, the very northern tip of Maine. My first experience with the Strategic Air Command. It's a SAC base. Spent 7 years there, and I truly believe that was the pinnacle of my career. Even though I still had a lot of career left, that time that I spent there, I think was the best time that I've had socially, militarily, everything. It just was the perfect fit, I think, for our family.
Everything's just clicking. And then you got about 10 years in at that time, right?
So seven, yeah, about 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Um,
awesome. Those memories are great, though. When you think back, like when I think back on my career, there are times that I remember that I'm like, oh, yeah, like if I could do that again, I would, because it was amazing.
yeah, yeah. And it was the perfect place for a family.
Mhm.
There was a saying that they had 40 below keeps the riffraff out. And it's true. I mean, it was a very, very, very small town. Again, small town. The base was it. It's tight community. Um, yeah, I just love that assignment. Um, I actually had a really neat experience. We were the when I arrived, the hospital designation was um, 42nd Strategic Hospital. No, it was USAF Hospital, Loring Air Force Base, Maine. That was our designation.
Mhm.
And something happened, reorganization happened. So we now became 42nd Strategic Hospital. And because of that, we needed a new unit patch. And I actually designed, and the patch was accepted and is now a part of Air Force history. So
How,
that was really cool.
how cool. Yeah. How cool is that? Like,
It was so amazing just to have that experience, to do the research. Instead of a shield, it's now a circle. Why? You have to do all that. The colors have to matter. It all has to make sense. And yeah, it was like suddenly everybody's wearing my patch. And it
wow,
was so amazing.
what a legacy.
Yeah.
That is very cool.
My daughter and her husband, who's also retired military, Air Force, they went back to Maine. Loring is now I don't know, it's a big civilian complex up there. But they went just to visit because Amy has really great memories. My daughter Amy
Uh-huh.
and my son John both have great memories of being in Maine. So they went back, and there's a little museum set up for Loring, and all the stuff that was part of Loring. And they actually found my patch there in the museum. So that was really cool.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know many people that can say, hey, you can go to this museum and here's something that I actually designed that hundreds of people
That's
wore for years.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was really cool.
So when you left Maine, where did you go from there? And your kids are what, how, like early teens by this time?
Yeah, they're getting close to that.
Yeah.
So that was great. Ended up getting an assignment to Yokota Air Base, Japan, another Japan tour, but this on the main island, I guess you call it.
Mhm.
Um, and at that time, so prior to that, all the PCS moves, permanent change of stations, we've all gone together. This one, that wasn't going to happen. There wasn't housing available yet for the family. So I went ahead of them. I think it was probably, I'm trying to think, about 5, 6 months maybe
Oh,
ish that I was there before they were able to join me. So they stayed there in Austin with my parents, my wife's parents, Sandy, her parents. And I went ahead, got things set up, and they were able to finally join me after a while. That was a long wait. It was a long wait.
yeah. I mean, in the bigger scheme of things, 6, 7 months doesn't seem that long, but when you're away from your family, that's a long time.
It is a very long time.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
so they joined you there. How was that tour?
The that tour was it was good. Again, going from this small place Loring to this giant place Tokyo. You think you're done with kind of culture shocks, but nah, I don't think you ever get used to it. But yeah, it was a great assignment. I really enjoyed that. We went a lot of places. Um, I was I interviewed for and was selected to be a member of the United States snow carving team. Each year in Sapporo, Japan, which is Hokkaido, which is the island north of where we were, they have the annual Sapporo Snow Festival. And they have a snow carving competition. It's international. And I was on that team for 3 years. That was really amazing. The first year I carved was the first year after the Berlin Wall had gone down. So the Russians, prior to this, they came with handlers. Mm-hmm. They weren't allowed to mingle with the other teams. They weren't allowed to, other than official stuff, they kept to themselves. Well, this year, they came by themselves, and they had the best time. The USA team, the Russian team together for the first time. It was so much fun. Yeah, it was great stuff.
Isn't it cool when you get to know people who, I don't know, we think of them as enemies during that time, mm-hmm. but when you really get to know them, it's like it's different. Like you find out that they're people.
Yeah, and it was so much fun because we partied with them one night. It was crazy because they spoke Russian. We spoke English. They didn't speak English. We didn't speak Russian. But we had a guy on our team that spoke German, and they had a guy on their team that spoke German. So it would go from English to German, then from German to Russian, and then back around again. It was crazy. It was just crazy.
I feel like military people, more than other folks, always find a way to make it work.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people have gone, oh, we just can't communicate. But you guys are like, wait a minute, he speaks German. We're going to make this thing work.
We made it work. Yeah. It was crazy. People were, they loved seeing us together, and pictures. Yeah, I was surprised it didn't make international news. I think we found world peace. I don't remember for sure, but yeah.
Right. You guys discovered détente before it was cool.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So how long were you in Japan for?
Another 7 years seems to be the magic number.
All right. And then just because I have insider information, because I did interview the other John Bureman.
Yeah.
This is where John joined the military from, correct? When you were in Japan?
Yeah. That was a rough one.
Yeah.
He graduated high school, and he started coming home later and later, spending time in places he probably shouldn't spend time. Again, we're talking about Japan, where you can buy anything that you can imagine from a vending machine,
right,
including alcohol.
Yeah.
Just dropping the money, you get this big keg of Sapporo beer. So I guess it got to the point where I said, you got to do something. Either you're going to go to school, you're going to go to work, or you're going to join the military. And so that he chose military. Yeah. But remember taking him to the airport and watching him go down the escalator in that little baseball hat he wore all the time. And I couldn't see him anymore after that. And man, I lost it. I just sobbed.
Our kids are always our kids, John. Like,
oh, I know.
Like I always picture my son and his Mutant Ninja Turtles bike, and I picture my daughter. I don't picture them at the age they are now because they're all grown out of the house and very successful. But yeah, like you still picture them like wearing a little baseball hat going down the escalator.
Yeah, the hit song that year was "I Will Always Love You," Whitney. Yeah, and that come on the radio, and both me and my wife.
Yeah,
my dad told me something. You'd ask me things I remember about my dad. One thing I remember my dad saying to me, never forgot it. We had got back from Okinawa, and we're visiting, and I asked my dad. I said, "Dad, what's it like when your kids leave?" He looked at me and he goes, John, your kids never leave. And I didn't, and I said, oh, yeah, whatever. Yeah, you know what? I got my daughter and her family 30 miles, my son, 30 miles from me. Kids never leave. They don't.
They don't. My son lives in Alabama and I live in Michigan, and we talk probably 2 or 3 times a day as if he was right here.
Wow. See, Ypsilanti, that's where my wife was born,
Yeah.
Michigan. And her family is all from Alabama, her side of the families. It's all this connection.
Small world.
Yeah, it is. Something that I did experience there when I was in Yokota, that again, this is a pinnacle point in my career, I think. We had non-commissioned officer of the quarter board, which you would go and in your dress uniform, they would ask you questions, and senior NCOs, and if you impressed them enough, you would win. But the award for this, and I did win, was I got to go to Iwo Jima, and that was the most humbling. I mean, I still well up a little bit when I think about that.
Oh yeah.
But the Coast Guard had a little air station there, and so they would do a milk run, take a C-130 with whatever they needed to bring, go to Iwo Jima, spend the day there, and they have a historian. The Coast Guard would not train, but they would have a person who would come take over as the historian. They would get all the knowledge of the island and this kind of thing, and then it would provide tours. So I got to stand on top of Suribachi and look down at the Invasion Beach. They called it, the beautiful black sand beach where the Marines came on shore. And I mean, talk about standing on hollow ground. It was just phenomenal, and was able to bring back a piece of Suribachi with me. I treasure that piece of rock.
What an amazing honor that is to be able to do that. And
yeah.
As a service member, to stand where those who came before us stood and, saved the world as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They have, they built a crematorium there on the island, and it's very ceremonial. Once a year, a group of archaeologists and historians and other folks will come from Japan there to Iwo Jima, and they're still searching caves in Suribachi. And when they find remains, they will archaeologically document everything. If they're able to return items to families, they will. Any remains that are found are cremated, and they have this sluice gate that runs down through these torii gates out into the ocean, and just mind-boggling that they're still finding, and they probably will for a long time.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. The thing that sticks in my mind about that particular part of the war was the amount of respect that you see between the Japanese and the American military. You see it a lot when these guys meet up after having fought each other, years, and they just have so much respect for each other. It's different.
Yeah, absolutely. That to be able to have that physical connection by being there, just something I will never forget. Not just forget, but the feeling.
Yeah,
I can recall that feeling of standing there, and I can see the other end of the island. When we take off, when we leave, and that was a ride. That's an e-ticket in Disneyland, because that C-130 hits the end of that runway. There's nothing but a sheer drop into the ocean.
right.
So you get a little bit of a whoop, and then up you go. So yeah, that was cool. But I think that was, I'll need to stop because I'll keep talking about it.
Oh no, That's
It was
all right.
amazing.
That's all right. So 7 years there, and then it sounds like again like things are going really great for you, and so where do you go from there?
From there, went to here, which is Tinker
Uh
Air
huh.
Force Base. Just spent a very short time here, um, and decided 23 years, good run. I'm going to step out. So yeah, put in
Yeah.
my papers and retired.
Tell me that. Tell me about that last time you put the uniform on.
Let's take a quick break.
Hey, listeners, we need your help to keep the Veterans Archives podcast going. We're a nonprofit dedicated to preserving the stories of our nation's heroes, and we provide this service completely free to veterans. Your support helps us record, share, and archive these incredible stories so future generations never forget the sacrifices made for our freedom. Every donation, big or small, makes a difference. Visit veteransarchives.org to contribute today. Help us honor their service by ensuring their voices are heard. And thank you for your support, and thank you to all the veterans who have served our country.
Well, that would have been about a week ago, actually. I pulled it out of the closet. And I'll be damned if I wasn't able, with a little bit of push, to get that coat button up. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was humbling. The Air Force treated me very, very well. And so yeah, it was humbling. What's funny was I remember after, or actually maybe even shortly before, telling my wife that I'm going to have to get some civilian clothes. I got to go to work. So we went to J.C. Penney, and I said, I'm going to go to the men's. She's going to do her thing. We finally get done, and I go wheeling up to the register, and she looks into my basket. She goes, look in there. When I look in there, I said, yeah. She's going, look. I look. I said, what? Just everything's a shade of blue. And it was everything. Darker color for the pants, of course, lighter color for the shirt, but I'll be damned, everything was a shade of blue.
You've been conditioned.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
that was great stuff.
So,
I learned, though, that, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, no. Keep
I
talking.
was going to say, I learned, though, very quickly that a career in dental does not translate to the civilian world, unfortunately. That was a rude awakening. So yeah, I figured, now I'm not going to be a dental assistant. I knew that. There is
Right.
no dentist that's going to want to bump knees with a guy. I mean, you just don't. You get a female dental assistant. But I knew enough that I could there was a time when I was managing an 18-chair dental clinic with all the specialties.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured I can run a dental operation, no problem. So I started applying for office manager positions. And I remember specifically one interview I went to. I had my little briefcase, my suit, and the receptionist asked, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm here to interview for the office manager." And she laughed. And she goes, you're a farm rep or something, pharmacy. I was, that's why I'm here. So she goes to the back, and I hear this talking going on. And so these two ladies come out, and they bring me back to this, like a break room. And there's a table with a pad of paper on it. And the ladies go, we're going to go get a couple chairs. So they go out. And I look down at the pad, and it says questions to ask for interview. And the first question says, ask her why she left her last job. So
That screwed that all up for him.
yeah. I just kind of turned the paper back around, and it didn't go well. So yeah, that was I actually interviewed for one place. It was a hospital in Shawnee, Oklahoma, which is about 30 miles from where I live. And that one went like all the way. I mean, these people were so excited about me. Like, you're the top of our list, because they were checking in. I was checking in. And then all of a sudden the check-in stopped. No return calls, no nothing. And I get a letter saying, we're sorry, but we found somebody more qualified than you. So yeah, again, everything happens for a reason.
Right.
Yeah. Ended up going to work for a small dental supply company. I was a good fit for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I interviewed for working as a receptionist at this real estate agency in Oklahoma City, and a very large, well-known real estate agency. And the lady that owns this agency talked to me on the phone, and after she hired me, she said, the reason I hired you, she goes, I would have never thought to hire a man. Never entered my mind. She goes, but I love your voice. You have a good phone voice. I never knew. So I went to work for this place. I never realized how bad the real estate world is. So again, big agency. My training consisted of, if anybody walks in and tries to hand you an envelope, you do not take it, because they're being served for something. They're always being served. That was rule number one. Rule number two is, we don't take Section 8.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't do it. And yeah, if somebody happened to walk in and they were Section 8, you could hear crickets chirping. There were tumbleweeds rolling through the office. You let somebody else come in and it was like sharks, and chum. It was terrible. But yeah, if you were low income, you just go away.
Wow.
It was, yeah. But I mean, I had to make money. I mean, I needed money. I had my retirement pay, but that's not going to, do it. And then one day I'm going to lunch, and this song comes on the radio, and it's a song by Boston. And I hate Boston. I don't like them. So I just hit the seek button.
Right.
The very next station it stops on is an advertisement for an addiction counselor program, degree program at Oklahoma State University in Oklahoma City. I think I did a U-turn on a busy intersection, drove to the school, walked into the bursar's office, took out my credit card, and paid for an entire semester of school. I wanted that degree. And that's when I learned about the GI Bill.
Mm-hmm.
And the GI Bill will pay me to go to school. So yeah, I continued working for this dental supply company. I quit the real estate place.
Yeah.
Bunch of yahoos. Anyway, and I was the 7th group of students to go through this degree program, and got a degree in addictions counseling, became certified, and went to work.
Why addiction counseling?
Well, I said the Air Force has been very, very good to me.
Mm-hmm.
They were. By all rights and privileges, they could have discharged me with no pay, no privileges, nothing. I had a little pretty significant problem with alcohol during my 23 years in the military, and did some really stupid stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, they like I said, they had every right under the UCMJ, every legal right, every moral, every ethical right to say, see ya, you had your one chance, you blew it. Because that was pretty much the process. Is drugs? No, there was no tolerance. If you got busted for drugs, they'll put you through a program, but after that, you're gone.
Uh-huh.
With alcohol, they'll put you through a program, and then they'll let you go back to work. But if you do it again, you're gone. And I did it again, but they allowed me to retire with honor.
So, I just want to, I like the way this conversation's unfolded, because it's when you juxtapose your career where from the outside, everything seems to be amazing. I mean, you had great assignments, you excelled, you did wonderful things, but underneath that is this addiction to alcohol that's tormenting you the whole time. And that's gotta be tough.
It is. But then it's not, because, in my addiction, I was able to perform, obviously.
Right.
3 meritorious service medals, 3.
Yeah.
That is almost unheard of. 2 from the same assignment, Loring, the pinnacle, and then 1 upon retirement. So, I had a lot of, I built up a lot of credibility, I guess. I mean, I'm a likable guy.
Yeah.
I'm funny, but so I had a lot of people that had faith in me, and I did the right things when I should have done the right things. That kept me on course. But again, if I try to think about, if I were on the other side of that table and somebody put my file in front of me and said, what should we do with this person? I'm ashamed to say, I'd say, hey, just go. He was given his chance.
Right.
And that actually happened with me. There was, I don't know who it was. It was a civilian. I don't know anything more than that. That said, we need to just, get him out of here. He, dishonorable discharge. But everything happens for a reason. My commander, my base dental surgeon, I'd been stationed with before. He knew me. And he said, hell no, this man's retiring.
Yeah.
With honor. Yeah.
That makes sense. So do you think that the kind of the breaks that you've been given, does that help you show grace to the people that you counsel? Do you know what I mean? Like,
my gosh, yes.
Like you can understand, not only can you call them out on their BS because you've done it, right? But you can also understand. There's like this understanding and also this accountability, which, unless you've been through it, I don't think you have necessarily the ability to really understand that.
Well, yes, you can really, because you have to separate the addiction from the behaviors or the feelings. Somebody once said that addiction is the only disease you can have where people will yell at you for having it, and there's some validity to that, but I may not be able to identify with a particular addiction, but I can 100% identify with the feelings associated with it.
Yeah.
And that's what people have to understand is, there's that thought that, well, if you haven't done it, then you can't know. Yeah. But so I said, well, tell me what you're feeling when that happened. I'm feeling afraid. I felt fear. I can identify with fear. Let's talk about the fear. Move away from the object, and let's look at what's in here.
Right. Which allows you to kind of get to the underlying causes, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long have you been sober?
I got sober in 1995.
Okay.
Yep. Been sober since then. And the Air Force really, and I'm not blaming the Air Force, but glamorized alcohol. I mean, that commander's call, that's the time to drink. Everybody gets together and you drink. Dining ins, it's all about the grog bowl and the alcohol. And
You're almost
So
forced to drink at a dining in
exactly.
because
No, you're right.
I'm a non-drinker. I don't drink at all, and not because I'm alcoholic. I just don't like to drink. And I remember,
Denial.
thank you, but I remember going to these events and feeling a little bit ostracized because I don't drink and I refused
Yes.
to. And
Yes.
you know, like I was in the field artillery for a little while in the Army, and they have a big event where it's all about getting drunk. And I'm like, well, I want to be one of the guys because I love these people, but I'm not drinking. And
Yeah.
people look at you cross-eyed if you don't drink with them. So yeah, I get it. Like it almost encourages. It's like when they put cigarettes in the rations for the World War II guys, and everyone started smoking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same thing. Anyway,
you're probably better off in that situation to tell them, "Hey, I can't drink, man. I'm an alcoholic." And oh man, then you're part of the group, But yeah, just to say, "I don't drink." Yeah, that's very true. It was encouraged. It was glamorized in a sense, and yeah, it was perfect for me. That's what I'll do. I'll just drink, and I did it very well. But
if you're going to do something, be good at it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so yeah, I got sober and then started the addiction counseling.
Uh-huh.
Ended up actually teaching at Oklahoma State University. The person that was teaching the program that when I went through, Lisa Dillon, she is now the director. So she told me once I get my degree, then let her know and she'll start me teaching. So I taught for almost 20 years.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, loved it. Loved teaching. That's really where my heart was at. Training and teaching. Yeah, I went to work for the state of Oklahoma, and my job there was to oversee all the DUI programs that the state has, all the assessments that they do and the trainings that they do. So yeah, I got to travel all over Oklahoma. That was fun. That was fun. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, kind of from one amazing career to another even more amazing career almost.
I love, it was great because I got to do all the trainings and, visiting folks driving around, and then COVID happened and that was okay. I love the COVID.
How many stinking stories to start out with, and then COVID happened? I'm like, how many times we got to say that? So
I know.
Yeah. So are you still doing counseling then, or are you like a retired?
I am. Yeah, I'm 100% retired now. I spend my time painting and drawing, and I have now a great grandson named Leo who lives in Maryland. So yeah, that's going to be a focus for me.
Oh yeah. Yeah. My granddaughter comes to visit from Alabama. You probably know this, but like she'll come up here and we'll spend a couple days with her, and you almost have to like take a week to recover. They have so much energy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's well, when I went, I visited him, my son and I went, and he's going on 2 years old, just an amazing kid, but he had this little wooden dinosaur, T-Rex that he gave me. And it just endeared him to me so much that I don't know if you can see it, but I got a tattoo of it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's upside down, but
yeah,
it is my only tattoo.
Yeah,
I'm going on, let's see, born 50 years old, I'm going on 72 years old.
Yeah.
And my one and only tattoo, I've found this guy that does the hyper realistic, looks like you can pick it up.
Yeah.
And I told him that's what I want, and that's what he gave me. Love it.
That's very, very cool. I always tell people, like, if you get a tattoo, don't get drunk and go buy something off the wall. It should count. It should matter. You should really think about it.
And this is so cool because when people see it, they will comment on it, and now, let me tell you about Leo. Let me tell you about my great grandson, and I mean, people start tearing up, yeah, I love it. But yeah, the guy that did it said, yeah, he said, man, you're the oldest guy I've ever tattooed. So that was quite the honor.
Wow. That's,
Yeah,
yeah, they should put you on the wall for that one.
I should be on something for that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, something we didn't talk about, and I'm going to ask if you don't want to, did you and Sandy stay together? It seems like you were together the whole time.
Not anymore.
Okay.
The February the 25th, was our 53rd wedding anniversary, and we are in the process of getting a divorce at
okay.
this time. Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Me too.
But 53 years is quite a run.
Yeah. My attorney has told me that I'm the oldest divorced client he's ever had. So I'm setting all sorts of records, but not all of them are the ones that are that great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope that when it's all said and done, we can, still, I mean, we're still in the same house, so it's not a battle zone by any means, but yeah, I told my daughter, I said, this could be one of those stories where like I start dating her again, and we fall in love again and get married again. She told me, shut up.
One step at a time.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, but you never know. Like, we don't know.
We don't, and that's kind of what I've become to learn through this process, like this book. It's a program where, they'll publish it for you. I mean, it's not published, but you do whatever you want. I've got all my drawings I've scanned and are in this book. Mm-hmm. All the poems I've written are in this book. And then I start my life story. And I've got it like you're watching a program, like I have the pilot episode. That's where my mom and dad meet.
Yeah.
And then season 1 is where I'm born, and season 2, so I kind of have it set out like in that kind of way. But there's so much about my family I had no idea. And all this information was kind of scattered around. I mean, there was my younger sister, she passed away, me, and then my older brother, he's gone. That's why I say I'm the last of us. My mom and dad are gone.
Right.
But before my brother had passed away, I started asking him, because I was in the process of doing this book. So I was asking him questions about, hey, what did you do this? And when were you this? And so he texted back and he goes, what, are you writing my obituary? I said, no, I'm writing a book. And I sent him some of the, stuff I had done. And he goes, can I be your editor, proofreader? And so I should, I guess, explain a little bit about our relationship as siblings. My sister and I, younger sister, were very close. Mm-hmm. My brother, no. He was the athlete of the family. He was the go-getter. He was the one making the great grades. So he, kind of was off with his buddies, and it was me and my sister. And that's the way our life had been. Either he was out moving in the military or I was. So we were never together really as siblings. And we were okay with that. Our communication consisted of an occasional phone call and a Christmas card. That was it. But again, that's all we knew. Once this book happened, my relationship with my brother was, I mean, it's like we'd known each other all our lives, but we have never talked so much, communicated so much about really deep stuff, heartfelt stuff.
It's all right, John. I lost my brother last year, and it's a very similar situation. We didn't know each other, and then all of a sudden we reconnected.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
But anyway, through that, it was amazing
Mm-hmm.
how much we connected and grew.
What a blessing to get to know him.
Yeah, yeah. I have to really try hard to put the regrets. I
Yeah.
wish I would have, put those away and just be very thankful
Yeah.
for what I had. But
Yeah.
anyway,
You can't fix all
yeah,
that other stuff. It's not
no,
fixable. But man,
no,
what a great thing that you, again, you decided to write this book, and a side benefit was you got to know your brother.
exactly.
Yeah.
It just everything just keeps like clicking, I guess.
Yeah.
My son and I, um, our relationship was, I mean, I wouldn't even call it a relationship. Because you talked to him,
Yeah.
and again, that's why I didn't want to hear his podcast, because I didn't want to set myself up. I want to tell my story and how that all fits. But I when he was in his throes with alcohol, again, we were like footsteps. We were following those same paths, different events, but the same things. Um, Almost lost him. He came very close to dying,
Mm-hmm.
and came back here. Well, not came back here, came here. And now I have a son. I haven't had a son since he went down that escalator at Narita
Yeah.
Airport. Yeah,
And now you got him back. I want to ask a question
sure.
that goes all the way back to the escalator. And that is, you saw him going down this path, and you said, look, get a job, go to school, join the military.
Mhm.
Was part of that because you were drinking and you didn't want him to do the same things that you were doing, or you just needed him to do something with his life? I'm just curious, like, what
Yeah.
did your alcohol use impact you not wanting him to do that as well?
No,
Okay.
no. It was you need to do something with your life.
Yeah.
Um, he was going to the mean streets of Tokyo, and I was concerned for his safety.
Yeah.
I know that there's probably things he's never told me that he's done, but that's okay. I knew enough that I knew you gotta get stable here and do something. So yeah, he chose the military.
Okay.
Good on you.
Yeah.
Good on
Yeah.
you.
All right. Just a question that I had in my head as we went through this conversation. So, I mean, really, it sounds like your whole life, like everything has happened for a reason. The book, reconnecting with your son. It sounds like family is very important to you. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to talk about?
Wow. You know what? Well, hang on, because I followed instructions. I made a list.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. I talked about Peru, joined the Navy, Okinawa. Oh yeah, there's something happened. Um, so it was 2014, and my brother-in-law, Sandy's brother, and his wife live in Clinton, Oklahoma, which is about 90 minutes west of where we're at. And they have family in Dallas. So his name's Frankie. And Frankie and Cheryl went to Dallas to visit his family, their family. And while there, he suffered a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a really bad heart attack. I mean, he had so many clogged arteries and stuff that they couldn't do anything at the moment as far as surgically. So what they decided, they were going to put a pacemaker in and start dealing with stuff as that happened. So he was at Baylor Heart Hospital, one of the premier cardiac hospitals probably in the world. And my wife and I went to visit him in the hospital. Now, typically, I wouldn't go with Sandy when she would go to visit family in Dallas. They just, I didn't feel like I really fit. They liked a lot of sports. I'm not a big sports guy. Anyway,
Yeah.
so typically they would go. But in this instance, I said, well, I'm going, of course, Frankie's in the hospital, pacemaker. So we go, and the day of the operation, we're in the hospital room with him talking, and I started having these bouts of heartburn. And I'm like, so Sandy had some Rolaids, which I took, didn't help. Thing started getting worse. You probably can kind of imagine where this might be going. But so after about, I don't know, maybe a couple hours, I'm starting to get, short of breath, sweating. Now, this is the time of Ebola. So you can't just walk into an emergency room. Now, at a heart hospital, emergency room right there in front of me, you can't walk in. You got to pick up the red phone. Seriously, red phone. Military, you don't pick up a red phone unless you're going to launch a missile. I finally picked it up. How can I help you? I said, yeah, I'm experiencing this and this. So have you ever been to West Africa? Been in contact with anybody with Ebola? Finally, they buzzed me in, and I explained my symptoms again. They get me on the gurney. They hook up the EKG, and the doctor's looking at it. He's like, I'm not sure. This might be something gallbladder maybe. So he leaves. And another doctor comes back. He's got the EKG strip. He looks at it. He looks at me, and he says, "What are your symptoms?" I said, once again, and then he looks. He goes, "You're having a heart attack." And my wife's at the foot of the bed filling out insurance paperwork. She goes, "Who's having a heart attack?" He goes, "He's having a heart attack." Next thing I know, I am stripped naked. They are shaving there's hair flying everywhere. And I'm on my way to the cath lab. And when I came back down after all the stent was put in, the doctor is asking, so give me the timeline. So I give him the timeline. He says, you had about 2 minutes to live. He said, we wouldn't have got you back.
Wow.
Because it was the widowmaker of all things.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a blood clot had popped loose, lodged in there. Had I not been there, I wouldn't be here. Yeah, so everything happens for a reason. I told my brother-in-law, it's one of my chapters in the book. It's called "Serious as a Heart Attack," because I can actually say that now.
Yeah.
If you haven't had one, you can't say that.
Right.
But I actually thank my brother-in-law for saving my life, because had he not had his, yeah, crazy.
Wow, that is something.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. But I think that's it for my notes.
Okay. Well, I mean, we've had quite a good conversation. It's been almost an hour and a half. You can believe that.
Oh, yeah, that's gone fast.
It usually does. So, we'll wrap up our conversation, but there's one question that I want to ask, and I ask everyone the same question before we go. Mm-hmm. And that is, if someone's listening to this story years from now, what message do you want to leave? What do you want them to take away from your life and this conversation?
Wow. I think the main thing is that don't leave regrets out there. If there's something that you wish you would have done, do it. Mm-hmm. Don't have questions in your mind about, family. Ask, learn. Don't wait till the very end, because it may be too late. I had the blessings of having my brother there at the last to help me through a lot of this and to give me the things that I needed to know about him and about me. And the last thing I said to him was, "I love you." And his service that he had was at a Buddhist temple. His wife is from Thailand. And I remember telling that story and looking at one of the monks, and he's like, "Yeah," it's like, "Don't leave regrets. Don't leave things unsaid."
Wow.
That's it.
All right. Well, thanks, John, for taking the time out today to talk with us. It's been great to get to know you, and thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. That's a wrap for this episode of the Veterans Archives podcast. We truly appreciate you taking the time to listen and honor the incredible stories of our nation's heroes. Don't forget, you can catch us every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern on Wreaths Across America Radio, or stream past episodes anytime on Buzzsprout, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and as I've said before, any place you can find a podcast, you can find the Veterans Archives podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share our content on YouTube and Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and across all social media. Every share helps us reach more people and preserve more stories. The Veterans Archives podcast is a nonprofit initiative, and our mission is simple: to give veterans a voice and ensure their stories are never forgotten. This service is completely free for veterans because their sacrifices deserve to be recognized and remembered. You want to help? Follow us, spread the word, and if you know a veteran with a story to tell, send them our way. Visit us at veteransarchives.org to learn more about how you can get involved. Thanks again for tuning in, and most importantly, thank you to all the veterans and their families for their service and sacrifice. Until next time, take care, and we will see you on the next episode of the Veterans Archives podcast.